All right, if you haven't noticed, Donald Trump kind of speaks his mind. Maybe that owes to his real estate titan past or business past. A lot of CEOs do that. Zell is probably among them. Sim is a multi-billionaire. Came from nothing. He's author of Am I Being Too Subtle? I think it is something for which we'd never accuse Mr. Zell, who joins us right now. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You know, the one thing that always stood out over the decades that I've interviewed you is you, first of all, don't suffer fools gladly. So as any journalist, you had to do your homework or you'd walk out of the interview. The other thing is that it's not about being loved or liking or getting the cool people to like you. That never seemed to matter to you.
For some reason or other, always, that's always been secondary to doing what I thought made sense.
Yeah, but you almost liked being the thorn, or almost liked being the skunk at the picnic. Am I imagining that?
I don't know whether the word like is the right word, but
zealously enjoyed.
Yeah, well, I think I always had an enormous amount of self-confidence. And if you have self-confidence, then...
But where did you get that from? You came from nothing.
I don't know. I mean, you know, maybe my good looks. I mean,
Speaking of looks, I mean, you were very big early on, dressing however that you please. Very, I don't think I never remember you in a tie. So you'd be wearing jeans, you'd come into a meeting, but eventually you had the comfort level just to do whatever you wanted.
Well, my thesis has always been very simple. If you dress funny and you're really good at what you do, then you're eccentric. If you dress funny and you're not good at what you do, then you're a schmuck. So you work very, very hard to be very good at what you do, so you have the freedom to do whatever you want.
All right. Now, I joked with you in the break here whether you'd entertain a life in politics, and you quickly laughed that off. And yet, Donald Trump, like you, from the real estate world, is maybe getting a rude sort of baptism here about the difference between, you know, dealing with a board and dealing with, like, a lot of competing political interests.
Well, I don't know what board he ever dealt with before, but it's certainly very different than what he's having to deal with today.
How do you think he's doing?
I think he's doing a lot better than anybody expected. I think he's learning how to be president, and I think he's learning a great deal about his job. So in that respect, I think he's done well. I think his selection of cabinet members and appointments and Gorsuch have been excellent. And in that respect, I'm very comfortable. I would love to take his Twitter key away from him. I think that diminishes his stature and his gravitas.
You had written about integrity, that integrity isn't just about following the letter of the law. It's about how you treat people, doing business in a fair and above-board way, and, of course, keeping your word. I can't stand bullies or people who are insulting, sneaky, or passive-aggressive. Wow.
It's true. I mean, that's kind of the way.
But you must run into them in your business world. How do you deal with them? Like in your industry, there are a lot of them.
Well, you know, I'm very good at ignoring things, and I'm pretty good at understanding, you know, that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and I go in a straight line, and if that runs over or somebody, so be it.
All right, but you ran into that when you were trying to deal with Tribute, right?
Yes.
The big media company. And you had sort of a frontline experience working with journalists, working with those who had multiple bureaus all over the world, some duplicative because they have the same newspapers are in them and they're sending multiple. I think you mentioned an example of going to Afghanistan and multiple papers. You didn't like a lot of those people, did you?
I had a lot of trouble respecting them because I thought what I laid out was very obvious. The future of print wasn't a great secret.
But why did you do it?
I really believed, I mean, when I underwrote the deal, I underwrote it to have revenues reducing by 6% a year. So I didn't expect an extraordinary, you know, experience. I expected that over time, print would continue to recede. But I thought that the way I structured the transaction and the way we put it together, the risk-reward.
But you would think that journalists who sense that even then that they could be in a dying medium, or they had to wake up and smell the coffee, or there'd be no coffee, nothing.
Aren't you making a very large assumption when you say journalists assume?
So you don't like journalists, either?
Well, I just think that, you know, I'm a brutal realist.
Yeah.
And my experience in the journalistic world left a lot to be desired in that respect.
Do you think Donald Trump calls them the fake news media? What do you think of that?
That's far too aggressive for my taste. I just think that, you know, an awful lot of people in the journalistic arena are very educated, and they equate education with being right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case.
When you look at the world that it is today, I mean, you made your fortune zigging with other zag, as I said, and also right after the '87 crash, buying up and into the next year, you know, properties that were depressed and all that. So you, someone called you a vulture investor, yeah, exactly. But what do you think of the markets now? What do you think of real estate now?
I think real estate is frothy.
Where?
Everywhere.
Really?
I've been a seller for the last 3 or 4 years.
What worries you?
I'm sorry?
What worries you?
Well, you know, as is always the case, after periods of, you know, performing very well, supply becomes an issue. I mean, we're going to build more apartments this year than ever in any given one-year period.
But a lot of people say it's nothing like the frothiness we had before the meltdown. Or do you say it is?
That may be the case, and I'm not at all predicting a commercial real estate disaster like what happened in the subprime arena.
Yeah.
But I think that things are frothy, and I think we're going to have more supply than demand, and I think we're going to see an adjustment.
Warren Buffett says CEOs shouldn't be worried so much about getting tax cuts. They should worry about their runaway health care costs. What do you say?
Well, I mean, the health care costs are very threatening, and you know, we deal with it in a lot of different ways, and we also own a whole chain of hospitals. So I think the health care issue has been and will continue to be a huge challenge for our country.
The mood on Wall Street today is that we're looking forward to tax cuts. Things are going to be great. This run-up will continue. Tech is hot. Things will keep going well. Big deals are going to continue going. You agree?
I don't think I agree with that level of optimism. I think that the real basis for optimism is the option that Trump has to change and stimulate our economy by deregulation. Over the last 8 years, we've had a president who believes that you know, redistribution is the goal of the presidency. You can't have redistribution and growth. They're incompatible. And the result was we've had very subpar growth. The opportunity and the real issue for Trump is that by continuing to deregulate and changing what's going on, he has an opportunity to materially stimulate the economy
and change history
without incurring debt.
All right. Sam Zell, am I being too subtle? I think it's safe to say that Sam is not.